Jack Carter's eyes snapped open to the sensation of weight pressing down on his chest. His vision focused on glowing purple eyes, mere inches from his face. The alien female straddled him, her silver skin catching the dim emergency lights of his quarters aboard the mining station Valkyrie 7. Her hand covered his mouth before he could shout. "Don't scream, human," she whispered in perfect English, though her voice carried a harmonic quality that shouldn't have been possible. "They're hunting me." Jack's heart hammered against his ribs. He'd gone to sleep in his quarters after a 16-hour shift in the asteroid belt. Now this. The Zinthara weren't supposed to be anywhere near this sector. The war had ended 3 years ago, with humanity's unexpected victory. But tensions remained high across the frontier. The alien's other hand held something that looked like a weapon, but it was pointed away from him, toward the sealed door. Her breathing was rapid, and even in the low light, Jack could see dark fluid seeping from a wound on her shoulder. Blood. Purple blood. "You're hurt," Jack managed to say against her palm. She pulled her hand away slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "Your people call me a war criminal. My people call me a traitor. Right now, I'm just trying to stay alive." Jack's military training from the Human Defense Corps kicked in despite his vulnerable position. He assessed the situation. She had the upper hand physically, but she was injured and clearly desperate. The question was whether she was dangerous to him or just dangerous to whoever was chasing her. "Why my quarters?" he asked, keeping his voice level. "Random selection. I needed somewhere the hunters wouldn't expect." She winced, and her grip on the weapon tightened. "I've been crawling through your station's ventilation system for the past hour." Jack heard voices in the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps, the kind that suggested combat boots and bad intentions. The alien heard them too. Her body tensed, and for a moment, Jack thought she might bolt. Instead, she looked down at him with something that might have been desperation or calculation. "I need your help," she said. "They'll kill everyone on this station looking for me. Hundreds of miners, engineers, families. They don't care about collateral damage." "Who's they?" "Calvor mercenaries. The kind who work for the highest bidder and ask no questions." She shifted her weight, and Jack became acutely aware of his lack of clothing beneath the thin blanket. "I have information that could prevent another war." Information worth killing for. The footsteps stopped outside his door. Jack heard the soft beep of a scanner being used on the lock. He had maybe 10 seconds before they breached his quarters. "Your choice, human," the alien whispered. "Help me, or I disappear, and they tear this station apart anyway." Jack made his decision in the space of a heartbeat. He grabbed the blanket and threw it over both of them. Just as his door exploded inward, 3 armored figures burst through the smoking doorway, weapons raised. Jack sat up, keeping the blanket strategically positioned, affecting his best annoyed expression while the Zinthara female pressed against him beneath the covers. "What the hell?" Jack shouted at the intruders. "This is a private quarters. You can't just blast your way in here." The lead mercenary, a scarred Calvor with gray plating and dead eyes, swept his rifle across the room. The quarters were small. Standard mining station accommodations. A bed, a desk, a tiny bathroom. Not many places to hide. "Apologies, human," the Calvor said, though his tone carried no remorse. "We're tracking a fugitive. Zinthara. Female." Sensors indicated she came this direction. Jack felt the alien's hand on his thigh beneath the blanket, a silent plea for him to maintain the charade. Her skin was surprisingly warm, and he could feel her pulse racing against his side. "Well, as you can see, I'm alone," Jack said, injecting irritation into his voice. "Unless you count being rudely awakened from the first decent sleep I've had in 3 days." The second mercenary, a human collaborator with cold eyes, stepped forward. "Yeah, I mind. You got a warrant? This is a civilian station under Earth Authority jurisdiction. You can't just go around blowing up doors and harassing workers." The Calvor leader's eyes narrowed. "We have authorization from the station administrator." "Then the station administrator can come here and apologize for interrupting my sleep." Jack shot back. He was gambling now, playing on the bureaucratic tangle that governed frontier stations. "I've got a shift supervisor who'll want to know why I'm not rested for tomorrow's run into the belt." "You want to explain to corporate why productivity dropped?" It was a weak argument. But miners had unions, and corporations had lawyers, mercenaries, even well-paid ones, didn't want that kind of attention. The Calvor leader's mandibles clicked in what might have been annoyance. "Our sensors." "Your sensors are probably picking up radiation from the asteroid processing," Jack interrupted. "This whole sector's lousy with exotic particles. Plays hell with tracking systems." The third mercenary, another Calvor, spoke up in their clicking language. The leader responded, then looked back at Jack. "We'll be conducting a full station sweep. If you see anything unusual, report it immediately. There's a substantial reward." "Sure, yeah, I'll keep my eyes open," Jack said. "Now get out so I can get back to sleep." The mercenaries backed toward the destroyed doorway, weapons still ready. The human collaborator lingered, his gaze suspicious, but finally followed the others out. Their footsteps receded down the corridor. Jack waited, counting seconds. 30. 60. When he was sure they were gone, he exhaled slowly. "You can come out now," he whispered. The Zinthara female emerged from beneath the blanket, her weapon still in hand. She moved to the destroyed door and peered out cautiously. "That was clever," she said. "Most humans would have turned me in. Most humans haven't seen what mercenaries do to stations when they're searching for someone." Jack replied. He got up, wrapping the blanket around his waist, and moved to his locker. "I was on Outpost Delta 9 during the war. Calvor shock troops thought we were hiding rebels. They weren't gentle about it." He pulled out clothes and started dressing, keeping one eye on his unexpected guest. She was watching him with those unsettling purple eyes. Her weapon now lowered, but not holstered. "I'm Kira," she said finally. "I was an intelligence officer for the Zinthara Collective during the war." "Jack Carter, mining engineer." He pulled on a shirt. "You said something about information that could prevent another war?" "Looks he. Inter-5er. Make sad." Kira nodded, moving to his desk and activating a small device she pulled from a pouch on her belt. A holographic display flickered to life, showing star charts and data streams Jack couldn't immediately interpret. 6 weeks ago, I intercepted a communication from a faction within the Zinthara military. They're planning to restart hostilities with Earth. But this time, they won't make the same mistakes. They've been studying human tactics, adapting, preparing. Jack felt his blood run cold. The last war had cost billions of lives across dozens of worlds. Humanity had won, barely, through a combination of stubborn determination and tactical innovations the aliens hadn't anticipated. A second war, with the Zinthara prepared for human tactics, would be devastating. "Why come to a mining station?" Jack asked. "Why not go straight to Earth defense?" "Because I don't know who to trust," Kira said. Her hand moved to her wounded shoulder, and she winced. "The faction planning this has infiltrators everywhere. Earth government, military, even civilian sectors. If I go to the wrong person, I'm dead, and this information dies with me." Jack finished dressing and grabbed his emergency medical kit from the locker. "Let me look at that wound." Kira hesitated, then nodded. She holstered her weapon and sat on the edge of his bed. Jack approached cautiously, opening the medical kit. The wound was worse than he'd thought. A deep gash that cut through her silver skin, down to muscle, that glowed faintly with bioluminescence. "What hit you?" he asked, cleaning the wound. "Plasma blade," Kira said through gritted teeth. "The mercenaries caught up with me on the station before this one. I barely made it to a transport." Jack applied synthetic tissue and a bonding agent. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold. These mercenaries, they're really going to search the whole station? They will. And when they don't find me, they'll start questioning everyone, checking records. They'll figure out I came into this sector somehow. Kira looked at him directly. I need to get off Valkyrie 7, and I need to get this information to someone who can act on it without compromising the intelligence. That's a tall order, Jack said, finishing with her wound. We're 3 weeks from the nearest major hub, and the only ships here are mining vessels and supply transports. Nothing fast enough to outrun mercenary pursuit craft. Kira's expression shifted, something like hope flickering across her alien features. What about the racing circuit? Jack paused. What do you know about the racing circuit? I know that human miners in the belt have a tradition of racing modified cargo haulers through the asteroid fields. Illegal, dangerous, and fast. Her purple eyes met his. I know because I used to monitor your communications during the war. You're Lightning 6, aren't you? 3-time champion of the Valkyrie run. Jack felt heat rise in his face. The racing circuit was supposed to be a secret, a way for miners to blow off steam and win some extra credits. The fact that enemy intelligence had known about it during the war was embarrassing and potentially dangerous. That was years ago, he said. Do you still have your ship? Jack did. The Sparrow was technically a mining shuttle, but he'd modified it extensively. Illegal engine upgrades, enhanced maneuvering thrusters, reinforced hull plating. It was fast, nimble, and completely unauthorized. He kept it in a private bay on the far side of the station, away from corporate oversight. Even if I did, Jack said carefully, those mercenaries will have the station locked down. Every ship that leaves will be scanned. Not if we leave before they implement the lockdown, Kira countered. They're still in sweep mode, checking quarters and storage areas. They haven't moved to containment protocol yet. Jack ran the calculations in his head. It was insane, helping a fugitive alien escape, racing through an asteroid field with mercenaries on their tail, all while carrying information that could prevent or start an interstellar war. Every rational part of his brain screamed at him to refuse, to turn Kira over to the authorities and let someone else handle it. But he'd seen what war looked like. He'd pulled bodies from the wreckage of mining stations caught in the crossfire. He'd watched good people die because of conflicts they had nothing to do with. If we do this, Jack said slowly, we do it my way. You follow my lead. No arguments. The belt is my territory. And out there, I'm in command. Kira stood, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Deal. Jack shook her hand, noting the extra finger and the cool smoothness of her skin. Then we need to move. Now. He grabbed his personal belongings, stuffing them into a bag. His identification, credit chips, a few photos from before the war. Everything else was replaceable. Kira checked her weapon and the data device, securing both carefully. They moved to the destroyed doorway. The corridor beyond was empty, emergency lights casting long shadows. Jack led the way, taking service passages he knew from his years on the station. They avoided the main thoroughfares where mercenaries would be conducting their search. The station was massive, a converted asteroid hollowed out and filled with habitation modules, processing facilities, and docking bays. It housed over 2,000 people, a community of miners, engineers, and their families. All of them were in danger now, whether they knew it or not. They reached a maintenance shaft that led to the private docking section. Jack climbed down first, then helped Kira follow. Her wounded shoulder made her movements stiff, but she didn't complain. How long until they realize you've escaped the search pattern? Jack asked as they navigated the narrow passages. 10 minutes? Maybe 15? Kira replied. They'll review their sensor data, realize there's a gap in coverage. Then they'll start looking at departure vectors. They emerged in the private docking bay. Jack's ship, the Sparrow, sat in her berth like a predatory bird. She was smaller than standard mining shuttles, her hull painted matte black with red accents. Modifications were visible to anyone who knew what to look for. Oversized engine nacelles. Weapons hardpoints that shouldn't exist on a civilian craft. Sensor arrays that could pick up a grain of sand in an asteroid field. She's beautiful, Kira said, a note of appreciation in her voice. She's fast, Jack corrected. He entered his access code, and the boarding ramp lowered. Come on. They boarded quickly. Jack headed straight to the cockpit while Kira secured herself in the co-pilot seat. The controls came alive under his hands, systems powering up with familiar hums and beeps. Strap in, Jack said. This is going to get rough. He initiated the departure sequence, sending an automated clearance request to station control. It was a formality, something any departing ship would do. He wasn't expecting approval, just enough confusion to buy them a few extra seconds. The bay doors began to open, revealing the star-studded blackness beyond and the glittering field of asteroids that gave Valkyrie 7 its mining wealth. Jack's hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, bringing the Sparrow's engines online. Contact, Kira said, checking the sensor display. 3 mercenary ships. Breaking from the station. They're coming for us. Let them come, Jack said. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. They've never flown the Valkyrie run. He punched the throttle, and the Sparrow leaped forward into the asteroid field. The asteroids were closer together here than in most belts. A dense clustering of rock and ice that made mining profitable and navigation deadly. Jack threaded the Sparrow through gaps that seemed impossibly narrow. The ship responding to his touch like an extension of his own body. Behind them, the mercenary ships followed. They were faster in open space, military-grade pursuit craft with weapons that could vaporize the Sparrow in seconds. But open space wasn't where Jack planned to fight. He dove deeper into the belt, choosing a path through the asteroids that he'd mapped during years of mining runs and illegal races. The Sparrow's sensors painted the route ahead, but Jack barely glanced at them. He knew this field by instinct and memory. They're gaining, Kira warned. Charging weapons. Not for long, Jack said. He banked hard around a tumbling rock the size of a small moon, then cut his engines completely. The Sparrow went silent, momentum carrying them forward into the shadow of the asteroid. Jack watched his sensors as the mercenary ships raced past their position, overshooting because they'd been moving too fast to make the turn. Now, Jack whispered. He brought the engines back online at minimum power, changing their vector completely, heading along a different trajectory through the belt. Clever, Kira said. You're using the asteroids as cover, and changing course when they can't see us. It's called the shadow run, Jack explained. Racing technique. The asteroids block sensors and visual tracking if you know the right angles. They flew in silence for several minutes, weaving through the field. Jack kept checking their sensors, watching for signs of pursuit. The mercenary ships were searching, but they'd lost the trail. Tell me about this information you're carrying, Jack said as he piloted. What exactly did you find? Kira pulled out her data device again. The faction planning the new war is called the Reclamation Fleet. They're led by Admiral Vex, a war hero among my people who believes the Zinthara Collective lost because of weak leadership. Not. Human superiority. Sounds like a fanatic, Jack observed. Worse. He's intelligent and patient. The Reclamation Fleet has been gathering resources for 3 years. Ships, weapons, intelligence networks. They've even recruited humans who are dissatisfied with the post-war order. Jack felt disgust rise in his throat. Traitors. Mercenaries, mostly. People who got rich during the war and don't want peace to last. Kira's fingers moved through the holographic display. But the real threat is this. They've developed a bioweapon specifically designed to target humans. It's airborne, highly contagious, and deadly. They plan to release it on Earth's major population centers simultaneously with their military attack. The cockpit suddenly felt colder. Jack had faced many dangers in his life, but biological warfare was something different. Something that made conventional weapons seem clean by comparison. How many casualties are we talking about? He asked quietly. Conservative estimates. 3 billion dead in the first month. Possibly more if the weapon mutates. Kira's voice was flat, clinical. But Jack could hear the horror beneath. I discovered the plan by accident. I was investigating corruption in the military supply chains and found references to biological research facilities. When I dug deeper, I found everything. And that's when they started hunting you. Yes. I managed to steal a complete copy of their plans, including deployment schedules, research data, and the identities of key conspirators. If Earth Defense gets this information, they can prevent the attack. But if it falls into the wrong hands, the conspirators will just go underground and launch the attack from a different angle. Jack processed this while navigating around a cluster of smaller asteroids. The weight of what Kira was carrying, what he was now helping to protect, settled on his shoulders like physical pressure. Who can we trust with this? He asked. I have a contact, Kira said. Admiral Hayes, of Earth Defense. During the war, she conducted negotiations with Zinthara diplomats. She was honorable, respectful. She's now in charge of military intelligence at the Frontier headquarters on Titan Station. Titan Station is 6 weeks away at standard speed, Jack said. Can this ship do better? Jack considered. The Sparrow was fast, but 6 weeks in close quarters with a fugitive alien while being hunted by mercenaries and possibly military forces from both sides? It was a nightmare scenario. But what choice did they have? With modifications to the engine rhythm, and if we use some commercial shipping lanes for cover, maybe 4 weeks, Jack said. But we'll need supplies, fuel, and parts. We can't just fly straight there. Then we make stops along the way, Kira said. I have credits. We can purchase what we need at independent stations. Jack was about to respond when the sensor alarm screamed. 3 new contacts, coming in fast from different vectors. The mercenaries had called for reinforcements. Hold on, Jack said grimly. He pulled the Sparrow into a steep dive, heading for a section of the belt known as the Grinder, where asteroid collisions created fields of debris that were nearly impossible to navigate. The mercenary ships followed, firing now. Plasma bolts lit up the space around them, impacting asteroids and vaporizing rock. Jack jinked and weaved, using every trick he knew. Return fire, he told Kira. Weapons controls are on your panel. I thought this was a mining ship, Kira said, but her hands were already moving over the controls. It is. A very heavily modified mining ship. Jack grinned, despite the danger. Those hardpoints aren't just for show. Kira activated the weapons systems, and the Sparrow's concealed guns emerged from their housings. She fired in controlled bursts, not trying to hit the pursuing ships, but targeting asteroids in their path, creating explosions of rock and ice that forced the mercenaries to evade. Good shooting, Jack said. They plunged into the Grinder. The debris field was thick here, fragments of rock spinning and tumbling in chaotic patterns. Jack's hands flew over the controls, making constant adjustments. The Sparrow's shields sparked as small pieces of debris impacted them. Behind them, one of the mercenary ships wasn't as lucky. It clipped a large fragment, and its forward shield collapsed. The ship tried to pull up, but the debris field was unforgiving. A chunk of ice the size of a car punched through the weakened shields and tore into the hull. The ship broke apart, atmosphere venting in frozen clouds. 2 left, Kira reported. Jack pushed the Sparrow harder, the engines whining in protest. They burst out of the Grinder into clearer space, and Jack immediately changed course again, heading for a different section of the belt entirely. They're pulling back, Kira said, watching the sensors. Waiting for more support. Then we use this time to put distance between us, Jack said. He engaged the Sparrow's enhanced engines, and the ship leaped forward with a surge of acceleration that pressed them both back into their seats. They flew for hours, constantly changing course, using every bit of cover the asteroid field provided. Eventually, the mercenary signals faded from their sensors entirely. Either they'd given up or they were planning something else. Jack finally allowed himself to relax slightly. Kira let out a breath she'd been holding. Thank you. For helping me. You didn't have to. Yeah, well, I'm committed now, Jack said. He set the autopilot and turned to face her properly. But we need to establish some things. We're going to be stuck together for weeks. We need rules. Agreed, Kira said. What do you propose? First, no lies. We're in this together, which means I need to be able to trust you. Second, we share all relevant information. If you know something that affects our safety or mission, you tell me. Third, I make the final call on ship operations and navigation. You defer to my expertise on human space and stations. 1. Fair terms, Kira said. I have one addition. If we're captured or about to be captured, I take responsibility. You're a civilian who got caught up in this. I won't let you take the blame. Jack shook his head. No deal on that one. I made my choice. We face whatever comes together. Kira studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Together, then, they shook hands again, sealing their agreement. Jack found himself looking at this alien, this former enemy, and wondering what the next few weeks would bring. They were fugitives now, carrying information that could change the course of history. Get some rest, Jack said. I'll take first watch. There's a bunk in the back. Kira stood, moving toward the rear of the ship. At the doorway to the small crew quarters, she paused and looked back. Jack? Why did you really help me? You could have turned me in, collected the reward, gone back to your normal life. Jack thought about his answer carefully. During the war, I saw what happens when good people do nothing. I saw stations burn because no one wanted to get involved. I swore I'd never be that person. He met her purple eyes. Besides, preventing a war that could kill billions? That's worth the risk. Kira nodded slowly. Something like respect in her expression. You're a good man. Jack Carter. I'm a man trying to do the right thing, Jack corrected. There's a difference. She disappeared into the crew quarters, and Jack turned back to the controls. The stars stretched out before him, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere out there, people were planning another war. Somewhere out there, mercenaries were hunting them. Somewhere out there, the fate of billions hung in the balance. And somehow, impossibly, it had all started with waking up to find an alien on top of him. Jack laughed quietly to himself. If he survived this, it was going to make one hell of a story. He engaged the long-range sensors and plotted a course for their first stop, an independent station called Crossroads, that operated in the gray area between legal and illegal commerce. They'd need supplies there, and information about who else might be hunting them. The journey to Titan Station had begun, and Jack had a feeling it was going to be a lot more complicated than just flying from point A to point B. But then again, nothing in his life had ever been simple. Why should this be any different? Axuride. He settled in for a long watch, his mind already working through problems and solutions. The sparrow hummed around him, a faithful companion in the darkness. And in the crew quarters, Kira rested, carrying the weight of information that could save or doom civilizations. Together, they flew into the unknown. Two unlikely allies, bound by circumstance and choice. The real adventure was just beginning.